with Barbera. What did you have to do to prepare for that marathon that you ran last year? Shit. Funny story. I had to do more than I did, put it that way. I don't know how I got through that marathon. It was hilarious because actually after the marathon, we all went for this lovely dinner. And before the meal, Jared just stood up and said, I just want to congratulate Adam Fergus for not only completing the marathon, but like finishing at the same time as Misha did. Because, Misha before his hip injury, Misha ran like 5 miles every day. And I used to play a lot of sports. I was kind of fit in that regard, but I'd never run 26 miles. I'd never run 20 miles. I'd never run 15 miles. The longest run I had in preparation, one of maybe 5 runs I did for the marathon, was Michelle from Stans and Brianna were in Michelle's house, and I called over and I went for a run around the lake. We were doing what was it called? New Jersey Con, and it was just before the marathon. And I said, look, I'm better go and do a run here. Like, I'm gonna die in this marathon if I don't do a run. So I went out and I did a 10-mile run that day and got lost. And they had to come in the car and try to find me on the run. But I was so knackered. It was just so interesting. And I've tried on a treadmill to run a good, like, not even 10 miles. Like, I maybe got 11 miles since then, but I don't think I'll ever do another marathon because my knees at the end, they were like swollen. We were in that restaurant and I just said to the waiter, he was taking my order, and I said, do you know what I'd love to have? You get 2 big bags of ice and about 6 napkins. And I got the bags of ice and I got napkins and I tied them to my knees. And I would walk out to the bathroom, and I had to go to the bathroom like basically like Quasimodo, hunkered over. I couldn't straighten my legs. It was quite hilarious. But yes, one of the most proudest things that I've ever done. I'm so glad to have done it for charity. But I was blown away that I actually got through it. And I think the reason I got through it was because we all kind of, like Jared and Jensen and myself and Misha and Rob and Jason Mans did it, Rob Benedict, and of course Rachel Miner. And so we pushed Rachel in her chair for the first 5 miles. And then at about halfway through mile 13, we kind of had gone a little bit ahead of Jason and Rob. I can't believe Rob did it. He was only 5 years after he'd had a stroke, and it was just an amazing achievement from both himself and Jason. But we kind of gotten a little bit ahead of them because myself and Misha were trying to keep up with Jared and Jensen, and then we couldn't keep up with them anymore, so they went off. And then myself and Misha were like just I think we finished maybe 10 or 20 minutes behind them. But if I didn't have Misha to run with and didn't have the SPN families just support from, we got to about mile 19 or 20, and I was like, Misha, I have to walk for a second, my knees. And so we'd walk for a bit, and then we'd come to a crossroads, and there'd be like so many fans there with banners and signs and shouting encouragement. We're like, fuck it, we have to run again. So we'd run for another couple of miles, and then he'd have to slow down. And at the very end, like the Seattle Marathon, I don't know why they do this to anybody, but you think you're near the end, you turn this last corner, and there's a fucking hill. Like they just put it right at the end, this hill up. You go up this hill and then down the other side into the stadium, a big stadium that you finish it. And so we got turned around and got up this hill. I was like, man, you're gonna have to carry me up this hill. So we got to the top of the hill, and then for some reason I saw the finish line. So it was about half a mile to go. You could see into the stadium, and I got a second wind or a 50th wind at that point and started legging it. And Misha was like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? You can't just run now and leave me behind." So we both finished at the same time, and there's a photo of Misha crossing the line. And if you look at his calf muscle, it's like up here. It's all seized up and cramp. It was I don't know. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Okay. Where's that? Bergen, Norway, bonding time, marathon. Oh, here we go. Have you found any new surprisingly quality well, no, I got married during COVID. myself and my wife were due to be married in April, and we obviously had to cancel everything. And then in June, we just had enough. We didn't know when it was going to end, and we just said, let's just get married. And we were looking around LA, places in LA to get married, and we couldn't get married in LA because all the courts were closed, and so we just decided to go to Vegas and get married by Elvis. And so, literally 5-6 days later, we were in Vegas. We had 8 friends, and we stayed in the Bellagio in a beautiful big room. They gave us this big room in the Bellagio, and Elvis was just the best wedding ever. It was just brilliant fun. And we could Zoom call it was on Facebook Live for our family and friends. So Haley's family and my family back home in Ireland, they could all, they were all like sipping champagne and watching us in this 7-minute kind of video that they streamed. Elvis singing, some quality old Elvis tunes, and then half an hour later we were in the pool. Wasn't very many people in Vegas at the time. It was a bit of a risk during COVID, but we were like, you know what? We'll quarantine when we get back to LA, and thankfully no one got sick. But we kept to ourselves, all like 10 of us. So myself and Haley and 8 friends. We went to the pool, went to a nice meal, isolated from everyone else, and then we just went up to our hotel room. We just, as I said, a lovely hotel room that we could just bring everyone up. We had some drinks, we played some games, and it was like never in my life did I envisage that was going to be my wedding, but it was such a special time. And you always hear these stories of people at their own weddings not enjoying the day because it's so stressful, but we just had a cracker of a day. No stress, just fun. It's great fun. So that was surprising quality pleasure. All right. What is your favorite holiday and why? Jen in New Jersey. Oh, wow. Anyone knows David Hayden Jones knows he hates that favorite word. Because I've had so many. I've had so many great holidays. Working when you get to work as an actor and you get to travel to these places like I'm traveling now, it's kind of like a holiday because you get to do what you love in life, and you get to be in a new city, anywhere around the world. I'm loving this current holiday work, as we call it, a busman's holiday. Because just because of the year that it's been, and because it's been such a tough year. Like people have had it a lot tougher than I've had it, but it's been a tough year for everyone, and it's so great to be back at work. It's so great to be back filming, doing the thing I love, and being in a new city and experience new places around the city, going for hikes and stuff around here. I did have a holiday once in Laos when I was in my early 20s. We went to Thailand, and Thailand was great. We spent like 3 or 4 weeks in Thailand, and then we were kind of like looking for a little bit more of an adventure. At the time, Laos had only been opened to the public about 4 years. Their borders had previously been closed, and we went up to this like jungle in the middle of nowhere, and just had this stellar experience of there was one night. It's probably a bit of a long story, but it was one night one day we all rented these mopeds, went right into the jungle, into the indigenous people of Laos are the Hmong tribes. So we went all into this tribal village, and one of the guys' mopeds broke down. Well, it didn't break down; it ran out of petrol, or ran out of gas, and so I took it upon myself to go back in and get gas at the local gas station. Now, the local gas station was a hut with a gas pump outside it. So I got it, and the roads were like at parts that were kind of fine with potholes, like a lot of potholes. And then it would go into this dirt track, and you would go over this rickety bridge that I I don't know if it could have held a car. Like it barely could hold my bike. So anyway, I went back over. It was about 4 or 5 miles. Got the gas, came back out, found the guys. At this point, they were getting a little bit of attention from the locals, and the locals were kind of like going down, checking them out. And we tried to open, if, on a moped or on a motorbike, a lot of time the gas tank is underneath the seat. So we tried to open up the seat, but the key broke in the lock. So we had to go. Because I was the one that was opening the seat, I said, "Fuck it, I'll go back in again." So I went back in on my moped. At this point, it was about 6 or 7 in the evening. It was getting late. It was getting dark, and there's literally no electricity out in this tribal village. Zero electricity. So they, and 3 of the 4 bikes that we had, 3 of them, the lights didn't work on them. So I went back in. My bike wasn't working, so I went in to get a spare key from the place we rented the bikes. Got the spare key, but then they were like, "You can't take that bike. It's getting dark. You won't be able to see." So they gave me this other bike. And as I was driving out of the thing, they shouted at me, "Go, be careful of the brakes. The brakes don't work very well." I was like, "Okay, I have no choice." So out I go on the bike. And I'm about 2 or 3 miles. I thought I was closer, but it must have been only 2.5 miles into the journey. And I hit a pothole. At this point, it had gotten dark. And I hit a pothole, and the whole bike just cut out. And the light went off. And all I could hear was the jungle just going, like, all those noises synonymous with the jungle were all just going off in my ear. And I was just freaked out. I was totally a scaredy cat. I'd seen these kids play with them earlier on that day on the side of the road. I'd seen these kids play with the biggest scorpion I've ever seen in my life. And these were like 3 or 4-year-old little tribal kids poking the scorpion with a stick. So, its stinger would go down like this, and they were just poking it. And it was huge. Like, it was, I don't know how to describe it. Like, it was a huge, big thing. And all I could think of in those few moments was that I'm going to get eaten alive by a load of scorpions. Anyway, so I tried to start the bike, and it didn't start immediately. And eventually the bike started, but the light didn't go back on. So I had to do the rest of the journey on this bike with no light. I was scared out of my mind. It's like going along at like 2 miles an hour, not being able to see the road in front of me. I couldn't see maybe 10 meters in front of me, and then you just, your eyes eventually adjusted a little bit. Eventually got over that rickety bridge. About an hour and a half later, I got to the lads, and the lads at this point were going, "Well, man, you took your time." And of course, I was about to kill them all because I was the one that had gone and gotten the spare key. But as I pulled up, this is the best part of the story. As I pulled up to the guys, and they were like, "Where are you?" And I stopped the bike, and I went to get off the bike. And as I went to get off the bike, the light just went bing, went on full blast again, as if to take the piss out of me. So it was one of my favorite moments on a holiday, because I can look back at it now and laugh, but it wasn't great at the time. Serendipity 101. What was it like filming Call of the Wild? It was amazing. It was amazing. I'd never done a massive, big blockbuster movie before, and I got to work with a couple of my heroes. I didn't have any scenes with Harrison Ford, but we were on set together, and he would fly in his helicopter in the morning, literally fly it in himself. It was amazing. It was a huge, big set. If no one has seen this movie, it's on I think it's still on Disney. It's such a wonderful movie. It's a feel good movie. It's all about animals, and it came out maybe 2 weeks before COVID hit, so it had 2 weeks in the cinemas, and then went online. I went onto streaming. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the shooting something that big, that size of where you have huge big setups. They shot it in LA, and they shot it as Alaska. So you can imagine the amount of money went into create the street where all the snow was, and I got to work with a hero of mine. Anyone who knows me knows I love The West Wing, and I love Aaron Sorkin. But Bradley Whitford from The West Wing, he was. I got to do like 2 big scenes with him. Now, unfortunately, when you work on a big movie like that, there's a lot of moving parts, and they normally shoot like 3 hours of footage. And a lot of my stuff with Bradley Whitford would end up being cut from the movie. And it was interesting. I was asking them why they cut it from the movie. The movie is a famous Jack London book. Most of you probably know that. And it's about at the beginning of when they discovered Alaska, or started going up to Alaska. They realized that the only animals that could pull sleds were dogs. And at that time, they didn't know that huskies were the most suited to that kind of inclement weather. So they had they would just get any big dog, any dog. And so my character works for this big judge, and it's set in Northern California, and he steals his dog. It's not ruining the movie because it's at the beginning of the movie, but he steals the dog. He had a bit of a gambling problem, and so he steals the dog and sells it into slavery, basically. So they tested the movie for an audience, and some people didn't get the bit that I actually stole the dog. They thought that the judge and me were in cahoots, and he'd given me the dog. And so they ended up going back and shooting a whole new opening, and I went back and shot this whole new opening for the movie, where I'm in the opening scene. It's a really beautiful scene, and it's a great scene, but it was good that my two big scenes with Bradley Whitford were cut from the movie, because it's just I working with your heroes is really one of the great things you are lucky enough to get to do in this business. And but still, I'll always have it anyway. I know they were great scenes. In honor of Halloween, do you like horror movies? If so, what's your favorite? I'm a bit of a scaredy cat. I don't love horror movies. I liked Babadook. That scared the shit out of me. And then was it what's the one? Let's just pull it up here. Is it not Insidious? Is it Insidious I saw? No, The Conjuring. That's the one. Scared the shit out of me. There's a time and a place for horror movies, and I really should actually force myself to watch them a little bit more, because they are really edge of your seat type stuff. The Conjuring really was freaky. That scared me, and the Babadook really, really scared me. What supernatural co-star would you quarantine with? Wow. What co-star? I think I've always had a massive interest in politics, and myself and Misha have gotten into political conversations a lot over the course of the last few years, and I think we definitely have a lot to talk about. So I'd love to. Look at any of them really. I'd love to quarantine with Misha for that reason, and for many others. Myself and David Hayden Jones could also. We've had a lot of evenings together in Los Angeles hanging out. So I can probably very easily hang out with him. Any of the boys. Big fan of Alex Calvert as well. We spent some time together in France last year. So listen, it's such a great cast. This is the whole thing about the show. There's been so many fun times we've had together. It's hard to pick out one or two cast members and think that they're more enjoyable to spend time with than others, because you really just chop and change to everyone. Myself and my wife and Rob and Ruth went bowling just before quarantine, literally just before quarantine, and we were planning on doing it a good bit during the summer and stuff. Obviously that went by the wayside, but yeah, literally anyone from the cast. Another lockdown starting in the UK next week. What have you been doing and would recommend to others to keep busy? Listen, I had so many amazing plans. I was going to learn Spanish. I was going to do some kind of... I did a lot of cooking at the beginning. I love cooking. And I think that's great, because you can, it's a celebratory thing you can do with your family, or with, anyone that you live with. Hopefully you're not living on your own in the UK. But if you are, you can cook for yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. Learning new recipes, trying new things. I got back into playing a lot of video games. I was playing a lot of Call of Duty. I was playing a lot of... what else was I playing? I spent at the beginning I was feeling guilty for playing video games again. But then I was got into it and I was loving it. Watched a lot of good television and a lot of shitty television as well, which I enjoyed just as much. But I think one thing that I didn't really do that I really would have liked to have done a little bit more was I could have been better at exercising. And I think, I don't know if anyone here is experiencing the same thing, or experienced the same thing. I think there's a lot of depression that happened during the quarantine, and especially for people that are unlucky enough to live on their own. And I think you really can help your mind and help yourself a lot by getting physically fit, or staying physically fit, or doing something to exercise your body. And even if that means not leaving the house, just YouTube, is the great resource of stuff to do. And I'd really recommend 1 hour a day, get up and do something that's going to feed the body, because it's a good opportunity. And as I said, listen, I'm preaching to myself as much as to anyone else here. It was hard. It was hard because, for the first few months I was so energetic and, exercising, and then I just got bored. I was not bored, but just kind of became so monotonous, and definitely some depression set in there. And I think it's really hard to stay focused in these crazy times anyway. So if you can, help your mind by keeping your body in shape. Stay in touch with people that you haven't been in touch with for a while. Write some letters. Do things that you haven't done in a while, because you have the time to do it. You're lucky enough to be part of a great family here, and so obviously the internet is a great resource, but get a pen and paper out and write a few letters to people, and just surprise people on their own. Even people that live in that you don't know, people in old folks' homes, especially the elderly, are very vulnerable at the moment, and really can do with any kind of help and communication. I'm sure there are plenty of avenues that you could go down by calling people in old folks' homes, just having chats with people who are lonely, who don't have anybody, people in hospitals. We're so lucky in this day and age to have this amazing resource that we're using right now. Hold on, let me see if I can change this. I'll see if I can green screen. I have another one here. Let's see if I can change it to this other one. Oh, no, I can't. I can change it to that one. But I think my Millennium Falcon is better. Anyway, what was I saying? Yeah, we have this amazing resource, video calling. We can call people, and I think you'd really feel good about yourselves. I think, helping out with people who are more in need than we are is another way of feeding the mind and making the time go by and doing something good for your community as well. I don't know if you've heard, but doing Mad Libs with Talent, released with tags on Twitter and Facebook November 30. Can you give an animal? Last question, Daydream Rider. Oh no, this is okay. I thought Brittany was explaining the last question. She's not. This is the last question. It's been 45 minutes already. Man, I can really love hearing myself talk, can't I? I don't know if you've heard, but doing Mad Libs with Talent, released with tags on Twitter and Facebook November. Brittany, what does that mean? So I give you an animal and you turn me into an animal? Give her an animal. I would love to give you a dog. Do you like dog? No, but an animal that I'm going to be? Perfect. Oh, no. I would be a dog. How about that? Although I do... What animal would I really like to be? Would I really like to be? I don't know. Let's just go with dog for now. Make me kind of like a basset hound or something, with those kind of droopy eyes and stuff like that. Daydream Writer. When you read a script for the first time, what makes a character interesting to you? Oh, wow. It's a great question. I know it's so interesting because you read so many scripts that you don't get the parts. Obviously any actor will tell you, you might do 20 auditions and you'll get one of them if you're lucky. I've had a lot of I've been lucky enough to play a lot of great characters in my time, and definitely when I read the Being Erica script first, I was blown away by that character, because he was a bit of a badass, and he was a bad guy trying to be good, and any like. To answer your question, what makes it like anyone that has an interesting journey, like that has, a definite distinctive arc, and learn something, and that's why I loved playing Mick, because he did have this distinctive arc, and I know it was only 6 episodes in a show that had 347, but it was so well rounded in the end, that I think that really makes it jump out to me. And then like there are so many other things, like something that's kind of a departure from myself, that I get to play something that I've never been in life. I think it's one of the reasons I became an actor was to be a fighter pilot, and to be a doctor, and to be everything that you can be, and that kind of level of make believe. We're just so lucky. If you get to work in this business, you're just such a lucky person. I was going to say something else, but I just feel so lucky to be able to do that, and I'm so grateful. Okay, well, I'm being kicked off. Guys, thank you all so much for joining in. I miss you all so much. I know this has been a terrible year. I just think that the cons. Think of the cons next year. They are going to be off chart. I guarantee you karaoke is not, it's going to be crazy. Myself and Matt Cohen will come up with some massive craziness for you guys. Hopefully you're all saving your money, so you can get to come to a few of them. I know I'm going to be so grateful to be back on the circuit again. And yeah, look, I think maybe we're being taught a lesson now, and I think the world is going to be a better place come the new year, and come the vaccine, and it's all going to happen. It's going to happen quicker than we think. I think once the ball starts rolling, there'll be a few vaccines out there, and we'll all be out of this, out of the woods. And if anyone had any loved ones that passed from this terrible disease, I'm so sorry. Or virus, I'm so sorry. I know we've all been touched by this in so many different ways. But please stay healthy, wear a mask. Be responsible, help others in need, and love yourselves. I love you guys so much, and I miss you. And we'll see you very, very soon. I promise.